sees the means of production, and the like and subscribe button. Did you see how the IDF shot at a group of diplomats who were visiting the West Bank? Yep. And then afterwards, the IDF was like, we apologize for the inconvenience of you being shot at. They look fine. Yeah. The IDF acknowledged it. The Israeli military accused the group of straying from an approved route and said warning shots were fired into the air to distance them away. It says it regrets the inconvenience caused. They're lying, of course. Many countries, some of whom had diplomats to visit, have condemned Israel's actions. Spain, Italy, France, Turkey, Ireland, and Italy. It was a huge delegation of Western diplomats. Well, not just Western, I guess. I don't know. West-aligned Democrats? Is Israel trying to piss everyone off? Yeah, they're a rogue state. They genuinely do not care. They're in like a suicide pact with like anti-Arab and Jewish supremacy. Did you see Israel wants to bomb Iranian nuclear facilities? Yeah, I've seen that like 1,000 times. It's a stated goal of Netanyahu's. It's pretty out and about. Egypt said the shots being fired on the group violates all diplomatic norms. There's one of two possibilities here. One of which is that this was done under orders, in which case the IDF is complicit structurally, and the second one being that it was like just a random belligerent soldier just trying to be, you know, an asshole. Probably the first one, considering the fact that the IDF did not deny that they fired the shot or do what they did when they like journalists, which is pretend it was Palestinians who fired or whatever. They just took credit for it and gave a reason for it. Rogue state businessman. They're so zealous and psychotic, I could see them using a nuke in the next 3 years. Yeah. Hopefully not. That'd be nice. It'd be good if they didn't. But the IDF sees anything that moves and sees it as Palestinian. No. The IDF especially hates these people. The Western diplomats, of course they do. Like, from the perspective of the freaks that run Israel, these are the people responsible for keeping them from just annihilating the Gaza Strip. Keep in mind that if Israel wanted to, it could have liquidated the population of the Gaza Strip in a few months. It would have taken very little effort. They could have just killed with absolutely no holds barred, which is what they would have done, by the way, if it weren't for the fact that it would have earned them international condemnation. They probably resent the f out of these people for delaying the...
The Palestinian Authority says a group of diplomats have come under fire during a visit to the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Delegates from the Middle East...
Actually, give me Al Jazeera.
Israeli forces have opened fire towards a diplomatic delegation in Jenin in the occupied West Bank.
See, that's what I was thinking. The video that we saw on BBC was not the scariest video that I'd seen on social media.
The group included diplomats from the European Union who were visiting to observe conditions in the city's refugee camp. The Wafa news agency says at least 5 bullets were fired towards the delegation. Italy's foreign minister has summoned Israel as an ambassador to the country in response. We're going to go to Handa Sahut. She's joining us from the Jordanian capital, Amman. She's there because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and the occupied West Bank. Just give us a little idea of what has been happening in Jenin, what the EU delegation was tasked with when they were over there.
Yep.
Well, it was dozens of representatives from many different countries, including EU countries, the UK, Sri Lanka, many Arab countries, including Jordan. And essentially what they were there to do was kind of get a scope of the scale of destruction that's been caused by the Israeli military since their siege on Jenin began more than 4 months ago. So this delegation was walking through when Israeli forces fired shots. Now, the military says that these were shots that were fired in the air as warning shots, saying that while this was a coordinated visit, they did give the delegation a specific route to go on, and they're accusing the dozens of members who came to see Jenin of deviating from this route. However, the army is now saying...
Any evidence to that claim, or are we going to take the most consistent liars in the universe at face value there? Wait, siege in Jenin? They're sieging parts of the West Bank? Oh boy, do I have to go back to covering Palestinian stuff daily? Yeah, they're sieging the West. They're killing and displacing everyone. Yes, They started that over a year ago. It never had anything to do with Hamas. They began the siege in Jenin a while ago. They've been destroying huge swaths of territory, creating and expanding their enclaves, the settlements. Yeah, no, there's the idea that this has anything to do with responding to Hamas has been a joke, like, for decades, really. But, you know, wonder what they feared the delegation seeing if they strayed from the route. I guarantee you the delegation didn't actually stray from the route. Also, the idea that the way to warn diplomats not to come closer is to fire shots in the air is psychotic. Like, but the face value argument here is deranged. Wouldn't it make more sense to have an escort to the delegation of diplomats and they say, hey, you have to come this way? Nope, just firing shots in the air? Okay, yeah, sure.
In quote, that they regret any sort of inconvenience this caused. And now that the coordinator for government activities in the Palestinian territories, this is a person responsible in the Israeli military, is coordinating with different countries, different diplomats and representatives to kind of explain that this was a misunderstanding. But it just kind of goes to show you the reality on the ground of how you can be anybody walking through parts of the occupied West Bank and come under Israeli fire. These places in the Palestinian territory have been under complete siege. You have tens of thousands of Palestinians who've been forcibly uprooted and displaced from their homes as part of the ongoing military raids in Jenin, in Tulkarem, in their surrounding areas in the northern parts of the occupied West Bank. So the military says that this was an unfortunate event and is apologizing.
The old IDF would say it was Palestinians who fired on them. I think the fact, like, I think that the IDF is probably going to start escalating the scope of the pretty rapidly now, because they understand that the writing's on the wall. They had a good thing going with Biden. Biden would accept and defend basically anything. But Trump has been distracted by the shiny gold toys that, you know, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia is offering him. And his support is waning. And the rest of the world, seeing that America is no longer committed entirely to defending Israel, is starting to step in. Not to stop Israel, mind you, but keep in mind, it wouldn't take... Israel's not, like, on the most steady ground, like, geopolitically. You know, it wouldn't take that much for the tide to begin to really turn against them.
For it, and these diplomats were forced to take cover when the army was firing.
One would imagine that Israel is beginning to feel some sort of diplomatic pressure as well. Italy's foreign minister summoning Israel's ambassador to the country in response to this happening. Of course, it was only 24 hours ago that the UK was summoning Israel's ambassador to the United Kingdom over the actions in Gaza.
Look, there's been a lot of international pressure on the Israelis, on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. For one, they're expanding military operations in the Gaza Strip.
Trump has said he's upset by images of suffering children in Gaza. Trump doesn't care about suffering children. Trump cares about the fact that he promised to end this war and build a big, like, golden statue on the West Bank coast. And he hasn't been able to yet. Much like with Russia and Ukraine, Trump is frustrated that he wants the image of, like, a peacemaker and deal maker, and he's not getting it because Russia and Israel are both psychotic. I mean, hey, listen, okay, whatever the outcome is. But genuinely, like, I think the IDF is only going to get more psychotic from there. We talked about it yesterday, but wasn't... Again, one of the ministers of the war cabinet was talking about how everyone, even like Palestinian babies, is the enemy. What was the language he used? Smotrich. That's right. That's right. He said exactly that. Yeah, I think I pretty much nailed the syntax there. I'm trying to find that bit. Now, Smotrich's been talking like that for a long time, I guess. Look at the news on the left. Implementation of Trump's Gaza relocation plan is conditioned for ending the war. Yeah? Can I get some clarification on this? Moving them all to Libya? What's the plan here? Jesus Christ. From Netanyahu. Golan's remark that Israel kills babies as hobby reminds me of medieval blood libel. Dude, the legitimacy of anti-Semitism accusations are having so much damage done to them by this nation. Even if it wasn't for the Palestinians, Israel should have been, like, multilaterally occupied by the UN purely on the grounds of completely cheapening the basis of, like, any anti-Semitic accusation. It's insane how much they weaponize that shit. Oh yeah, I saw this one. Moshe Feiglin on Channel 14. Every baby in Gaza is an enemy. Classic. Discovering lost chapters of Mein Kampf every time you click translate on a Hebrew tweet.
But two, because of their blockade of humanitarian assistance inside of the Gaza Strip, saying that even though Netanyahu had announced they're going to be allowing this very basic and minimal quantity of food to go in, that
dude has literally praised Hitler for being a brilliant tactician. If I recall correctly, like, he literally compared his plans in Gaza to Hitler's at one point, like, positively. Like, he said, as Hitler believed you must kill even the children, I too believe, or something like that. Many such cases. Median Israeli, Channel 14 member or something. I don't fucking know.
It is completely inadequate, that it does not suffice, that the people in the Gaza Strip need much more than that, given the Israeli army's operations there, given that they've been under siege for more than a year and a half. So there's been so much pressure, and the largest of those pressures was a statement by the UK, Canada, and France saying that they're willing to impose measures against Israel, including sanctions, if the situation continues as is.
Handa, thank you very much indeed. That's Sam Handa Salhut bringing us up to date.
Are most Israelis even descendants of survivors because they don't act like it? One lesson you have to learn, I think this point is made in Mouse, is that suffering doesn't make you a better person, it just makes you suffer. The idea that like, oh, well, by virtue of having a history of being persecuted, these people should not persecute others. It doesn't work like that. It never has. It has never worked like that.
With developments from Amman. Thank you. Italy's foreign minister has summoned Israel's ambassador to the country in response.
I heard about the incident in Jenin today where Israel Defense Forces shot warning shots, but still shots at a group of diplomats approaching the refugee camp within the visit organized by the Palestinian Authority. We definitely call on Israel to investigate this incident and also hold these accountable who are responsible for this, and any threats on diplomats' lives are unacceptable. As Israel is also a signatory to Vienna Convention, has the right, the obligation to guarantee the security of all foreign diplomats. So I think this is important.
Oh, I was hoping for a response to that.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get you. What is this? The U.S. just spent 25 years carpet bombing Wendy. Now they're crying crocodile tears about Israel's response being evaded. What would American reaction have been to Mexico if they'd done the same thing? Pancake Gnome, quick question. What the fuck are you saying? What's stopping them from sanctioning Israel back to the Stone Age? I mean, mostly American protection. That seems to be crumbling a little bit. All these tabs. Or even Rubio's putting pressure. Well, yeah, of course, because like the writing's on the wall. Just never forget the fact that Biden could have done all of this. If even the GOP is capable of bucking the MIC inertia and bias towards assisting Israel, like the Democrats absolutely could have as well. There was a critical point in time where very shortly after October 7th, where he had the opportunity to put his foot down and say that we will not endorse occupation, etc., etc. We want a full investigation, people brought to justice. But that didn't happen, obviously. Obviously, that didn't happen. You would never guess who British media are blaming for Labour's policy on Gaza/Israel. Labour? Vance is skipping out on visiting Israel, too. They've been getting a lot of pressure lately. Oh, they're blaming Corbyn? Well, it didn't say that in the headline. Is that Sir Elton John? Yeah, but I didn't think they were blaming it on Elton John. That wasn't my guess, based on the headline. It was further down? Yeah, well, that takes time to get there. Vance decided against Israel visit due to new Israeli operation in Gaza. They are sweating it out, man. While Vance was deliberating, concerns were raised that a trip to Israel at this time would be perceived by Israel and countries in the region as validation for Israel's expanded operation. At that point, Vance decided not to go. Jeez, I can't believe it. They're the most dogged fighters for the Palestinian people that the American government has to offer. Marco Rubio appears to acknowledge that humanitarian assistance is not reaching Gaza in, quote, sufficient amounts. That's great, man. Dude, we're gonna have decades of red-brown, Democrats got flanked from the left bullshit on account of this. New party switch incoming. Yeah. Remember all the Dems in chat that didn't believe you that Trump could be better on Israel? Well, keep in mind, my argument that Trump might be better on Israel in a broader consequential sense is that by being incompetent and laundering the topic poorly from 2020 onward, he might have just not been able to command as much support or consensus as Joe Biden. But that's actually not what's happened. It's not a matter of incompetent support for Netanyahu. It's the fact that, unironically, the Gulf states literally just jangled some keys in front of Trump and he wandered over to them. Also, Trump very clearly wants to be known as a peacemaker, a deal maker, etc. Man, it really does make me think that if Trump had won in 2020, he might have been a lot harsher on Netanyahu, because in the first 3 weeks, he would have been yeah, do whatever you need to. And then afterwards, he would have been all right, I'm bored of this news cycle. Let's wrap it up. Peacetime. He wouldn't have had the patience for years and years of deflecting and lying to benefit Israel, because he doesn't care. He doesn't care enough. You know? Do you think this pivot will affect Trump's numbers? Nope! Because as the Democrats have yet to learn, voters will go along with basically anything you have to say as long as you have a compelling reason. Literally, you just need to make the argument for them. That's it. And because the right wing controls the government and media and social media and everything, also, no one in America cared to begin with. The vast majority of supporters of Israel in America are people who are just passively following the line that was put forward by the status quo, right? The establishment. You know, this Hamas terrorists, safe haven for Jews, whatever. Right, it's not like ideological commitment. That's a small fraction of the population. Democrats are doubling down on Israeli support. Yeah, because support for Israel is like, essentially, it's like a flag for status quo, neoliberal, Western military hegemony support, right? What the Democrats are positioning themselves to basically be like, don't you like it when things were normal? Don't you like it when things worked the way they're supposed to? Neoliberalism and unquestioned support for Israel to continue supplying contracts to the MIC. Like that, if Trump moves from Israel, that just gives the Democrats even more of an opportunity to essentially pitch the argument like, well, hey, remember us? And Netanyahu, you didn't appreciate who you had when you had him. Biden was your best ally. New Jersey congressional candidate Michael Roth says he wants to be a strong pro-Israel voice for a new generation. And former Small Business Administration head. Wow, what a shock. You're telling me this youthful populist voice who just happens to support Israel is also steeped in corporate money? Oh man. Incredible. I wouldn't have guessed it. Do you think they'll now say Trump's being anti-Semitic? Well, Trump is an anti-Semite, but not for not supporting Israel. But will they? Nah, probably not. That'd be like uncivil or something. Also, if we get a presidential campaign cycle where a Democratic centrist accuses Trump of being anti-Semitic for not sufficiently supporting Israel, I'm going to crash the out and vote for the Green Party. Just to let you guys know. How can they see it as anything but political poison at this point? They don't care. They're wealthy whether or not they win. Also, they talk to consultants and lobbyists, not to you. The fact that at this point the majority of Democratic voters don't support Israel is irrelevant to them because they have never represented the interests of the people. Republicans represent the interests of their people more, at least their perceived interests, more than Democrats do, because Republicans actually work to manufacture consent and Democrats don't.